Hey everybody, it's your buddy Eric, and I'm going to go over my thoughts on Doomsday for our Eternal Weekend coming up. Now, I've been going over Doomsday data from the deck dumps every single week for actually over a year now, since the last Eternal Weekend, which was actually about a few weeks earlier than it was this year. So I've went through the past few weeks of deck lists and basically pulled out all the interesting changes and stuff that people have done with the deck, and I'm going to go look through this and figure out where we kind of want to be right now. Obviously, I take this with a grain of salt because, I do okay with Doomsday from time to time, but I'm no pro. But I just thought I'd throw out my thoughts, and maybe we'll figure out something along the way. All right, now, first, let's talk about the mana base. It's pretty much set in stone. We have 8 fetches, an island, 4 underground seas, Black Lotus, Mox Sapphire, Mox Jet. We do not change those. We have 1 slot generally for mana that we fudge around with. People who've tried generally Watery Grave or a 9th fetch land. Now the Lotus Petal can be thrown in, but generally it's thrown in on top of one of these other 2. You'll notice here I have an extraction of 67. This is not a list that I would run. I'm just going to go through the types of cards and then choices. So then we have, I would call like the core combo right here. 4 Dark Rituals, 4 Doomsdays, 2 Thassa's Oracles, and Demonic Consultation. This is, how we win the game. Next we have the Searching and the Draw. Obviously Recall, Brainstorm, Get Probe, Mystical Tutor, Vampire Tutor, Ponder, 4 Preordains, Demonic Tutor, Time Walk, Necropotence, Gush, Force Erase, and Dig Through Time. This has not changed for a long time, and I don't think we really have any reason to change things, except for one, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But first, let's go to the choices there. People have been really sticking to the main core of either Portent, Treasure Cruise especially recently, Peak, Consider, or sometimes Merchant Scroll. Now, Merchant Scroll isn't that great for us because it only gets Ancestral, good card, obviously, or a counter magic, but unfortunately, it does not get us Doomsday or Dark Ritual, which is the main problem with Merchant Scroll for this list. Now, sometimes we really want to turn one card into a counter spell or draw, and unfortunately, we might as well be digging instead of Merchant Scroll, because obviously if we Merchant Scroll for Ancestral, sure, that's great, but we could easily, Portent and try to find Ancestral or one of the pieces of our combo. Peak, of course, gives us information. Very useful, actually. It's another Get Probe almost. Especially as the instant speed lets us, spend mana on the opponent's turn and figure out what we want to do the next turn. Portent can also be used on the opponent to, figure out what they're on, mess with their top deck, and, give us information before we go off on a turn. But Portent's really been down lately, and Treasure Cruise has been mostly what people have been using this slot. So, finally, we have our counter magic, 3 Flusters, Mental Misstep, 2 Dazes, 4 Forceful. This is also set in stone, although there is 1 card that I'm going to be talking about in a bit that not 100% on. And then the other slot tends to either go to Mystical Dispute, great for blue cards. It's basically a blue Pyroblast in a sense. Force of Negation, and Pact of Negation. Pact of Negation is really good for winning on a turn, that turn rather, but also kind of suffers against a lot of matchups like Shops in Game 1. Game 2 and 3 it can be good against, their Mindbreak traps or Archive traps, but we have to be winning that turn. Force of Negation is weirdly good against Shops, but not as good against the blue matchups. Combo decks, yeah, sometimes we'd like to have it, but it can be a real drag. And this is generally the cards we pick from when we're playing Doomsday. Now, generally we have the 16 mana sources, and we generally put in Watery Grave or Polluted Delta. I would generally put in the fetch land, but if you follow Sing Palmon, he usually uses Water Grave. I think Right now, I think we really don't want to be taking the damage from Rodriguez, so I think I would choose Polluted Delta out of these two. I'm going to put the cards I would want here and then not here. Lotus Petal, I think, gives us some speed, but is really a dead draw lots of the times, and we don't always need sense speed. I don't think I would play it at the moment, especially with all the shops, with all the other, well, yeah, shops deck especially, but Urza Saga, basically, like we're getting it turned off or unplayable from people having shops artifact hate. Maybe that's wrong. I don't know, but I think basically is what we want. All right, so this is our basically combo right here. Now we have the draw spells. I think right now, especially since we're playing, the Force Street Wraiths for so long, I think that makes Treasure Cruise the right choice here. I really think it does. The problem is, of course, is that we have really fast decks going on and is not the fastest card, especially since we, don't always have the time to cast it, and it pitches to Force of Will more than I'd like it to. And it's really, it fights with Dig Through Time. I mean, obviously that's, not the greatest argument, but let's, I've had those hands where like Treasure Cruise and Dig. I said, well, all right, I'm only going to use one of them. So that's a bummer. But of course, it does pitch to Force of Will the strongest thing. So I think we want to be on this right now. But let's talk about this a little bit more in a minute. I can see arguments for any of these other ones. Possibly Peak if you're new to Doomsday right now, because it does give you a lot of valuable information you're playing. I really don't think Merchant's World is where we want to be. Counterspells, pretty staple, but we usually go for two, yeah, right? Because I'm pulling out two. Yeah, two more cards from this. Sorry, we need about 4 cards here. Because right here we have 16, 11, 19, 10. This is 56 cards, which is the main core of Doomsday. So generally, I think people will go for Dispute and Force of Negation and put Impact of Negation not in the main, if at all. So I think these are the 4 flex slots that we tend to fill up with: the Polluted Delta, Treasure Cruise, Force of Negation, Mystical Dispute, which basically says that what do we want? We want 2 flex slots on counters and 1 on draw. Now, these are all great cards to choose from, but I think we should pass them right now. Now, here's my thought right now. I don't think we want to be playing Necropotence. Why don't we want to be playing Necropotence? One, there's so many Urza Saga tokens right now. So many constructs flying around. Our life total is really at risk. Yes, it's a great card to play on our Dark Ritual deck, but I sideboarded out so much, and I've lost so many games just not being able to hit Doomsday going because a quick Urza Saga construct is just going to slaughter us. So do we really want to be playing Necropotence? This is a really interesting question to me that I want to do some testing on over the next few days. The other question is, of the counterspells, do we want to be playing Daze? Now, Daze obviously is really good for turn 1 Doomsday kills, but the problem right now is that people are playing lots of decks with lots more boxes or artifacts. We have 8 casts, which I think is a relatively hard matchup for Doomsday, just because of how quickly they churn through their deck and how much advantage they get, and they make a lot of mana. We have all these Urza Saga decks, which means they're pulling out Moxes or other pieces of hate, and we can't counter them with, we can't handle Urza Saga with Daze, and we cannot do anything else. We can't do, we have the timing with Daze has to be so choice for it to be good for us that I'm not really convinced that we want it right now. Now, what does that mean? What do we put instead of Necropotence or these Dazes? I think we could go up to the 4th Flusterstorm right now. I really do think that would be a better pick than Daze. And I do think we could either replace Necropotence with either one of these things, or maybe even, I was actually, crazy as it sounds, thinking about Narset. Narset pitches to Force of Will. Narset also, lets us dig, basically not really does what Necropotence does, but if you've drawn 4 cards with Necropotence, that does not do you anything, does not get you anywhere closer to winning, and you're down 4 life. Narset is basically something they want to counterspell, and disrupts the opponent, and also, gives us one or two extra cards, and that can really dig us in the thing. I think Narset might actually be a thing. Now, the problem is, of course, we cannot Dark Ritual her out, and she is slow. But the same situation is, if we have a combo kill in our hand, then I think that, we're not going to be casting the Necropolis anyway. We're going to Dark Ritual into Doomsday, and the Narset may not be cast, but it can be pitched to Force of Will. Or the other card I've been thinking of, Misdirection. Now, Misdirection does not get much play in these formats, but I think we could really use it here. I think Misdirection, obviously not that great against shops, but I think Misdirection can help us with, it's a great thing to throw against Ancestral Recall, right? It does fight Force of Wills. It acts as another Force of Will. It doesn't have the Force of Negation problem of we can actually play it on our turn, and it has the benefit of, other things like Ancestral Recall. Pyroblast, we can fight Pyroblast. We can kill one of their creatures, not necessarily a whole bunch of them, but we can bounce it at their planeswalkers. We can bounce it at any land because it doesn't matter, right? I think Misdirection, Narset, and I'm trying to find a better draw card to fit in, but I think Narset, Misdirection, and maybe the fourth Flusterstorm are what I want to be replacing these cards with. Now, that is not standard. I don't think I would recommend that going into this weekend, but this is just some thought process that I've been going through. All right, okay, now let's talk about the sideboard. Now, basically, we have to break up what we're playing, what we're fighting against. Now, one of the problems with Doomsday is we generally don't splash a third color in Vintage. Many people will splash white or green or more commonly red in Legacy Doomsday to give us Pyroblast or Silences or Abrupt Decay and Veil of Summer. Now, this thought process hasn't actually been, worked on much in Vintage Doomsday in a while. We're pretty much sticking to the core blue-black. I think that's another day. I think we might have to start going that route, especially if we can start finding more powerful cards in those colors to help us get to our goal. But let's go over what we tend to do right now. Now, a very staple core is Steel Sabotage's Leyline of the Void. 4 of those. That's 8 cards already. All right, Tabernacle, that'll be at 9 cards. Let me pull these aside for a second. Wish Magic Online had a better way of doing this, but this is basically what we're doing, right? We have that. Then we will have an Island, a Mindbreak Trap, then an Opposition Agent, probably a Fatal Push or 2, and I'd say Duress. I think this is a very, 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 very sizable, that's not the word, but it's basically normal sideboard around here, right? We want to have pieces for shops, right? That's where the Steel Sabotage comes in. Pieces for combo, that's where Duress and Mind Trap comes in. Shops also has the Island, or the same for Bug. Fatal Push comes in for, the fair blue decks, Bug, Jeskai. Opposition Agent also in those matchups, or the mirror match. Leyline and Tabernacle for Bazaar decks. That's basically where we're going. So let's just break this up into these things. Basically, we have artifacts. Now, artifact choices tend to be Steel Sabotage and recently Null Rod for the 8 cast matchup. Not for shops. This is not, Null Rod does not really help shops because they already have their Black Lotus that is a land, right? They play their own Null Rods. They shut off their artifacts. It doesn't matter. We don't care about turning off their artifacts. Do not sideboard in Null Rod. Null Rod is great against 8 cast. It can be useful against PO. Basically, that's the places where we want to have it in, if you choose to play that. Now let's go to this next list right here, which would be the graveyard cards. Okay, so then we have our graveyard cards. Our graveyard cards tend to be before Leyline of the Void. Nihil Spellbomb has also been tried out. Leyline is an obvious card. I don't think I'm going to go into too much. Exiles the graveyard, makes it hard for them to play. Problem is that recently lots of the Bazaar decks have been Hollow Vine. So, it doesn't do too much against Hollow Vine. Yeah, it can stop the vine, the Venge Vines, but hollow ones are still coming out, and they're discarding all their creatures into exile and casting them all their little lizards, so that really doesn't help us that much. I've seen a few times. Spellbomb seems okay. I've not tried it out. I don't know if we want to. Obviously, you can have some play in matches such as Breach, which I think we might actually see a bit of rise of this weekend, but no proof of that just yet. Next row we have right here is removal. Generally, Fatal Push is the safest because we want to get rid of creatures. And we're going to use Steel Sabotage as bounce for artifact pieces that we hate. Chain of Vapor is a good all-around bounce. We love this card for that. But you do have to be careful because they can bounce your Necroponents, and that can... I've had it matter, but it doesn't really come up that often. But generally, yeah. Or if you do have a creature out, though, in the matchup, it can matter. Tabernacle is much better against... Vengevine decks, than it is against, Dredge itself. I mean, Dredge can generally beat you with its, what's the 3/1? But the 3/1 that I cannot remember right now, because it's been a while. It's been a hot minute since I played against Dredge. And I've seen people trying Engineer Explosive because it takes care of the tokens from Urza Saga. Now we have creatures to choose from. Creatures... Basically, Thinking the Ice is a little thing that I wasn't trying out because it gives us a win con. It does give us protection as well, and it gets rid of everything that annoys us. So I think it's really good. I really want to try it more for this weekend because I think with all the aggro decks that'll be popping up, I think Thinking the Ice might be. Problem with these aggro decks is they are Pyroblast decks, but in general, if, they're wasting, I don't say wasting, but if they're spending Pyroblast and Force of Wills on Thing in the Ice, I'm kind of happy. I'm not going to always win, but I'm kind of happy. Opposition Agent, I think, is in a weird position right now. I think it could be good, depending on what you get matched up against, but I've just been finding it, having that problem of not pitching the Force of Will, and I've just had it in games where it's just like, all right, well, this is great if, we're going for winning by combat damage, or we get to resolve it, but I don't know. I'm just really down on Opposition Agent as of late. Tasigur is not right now the time, but it does stop a hollow one. It does flat stop out a lot of combat from opponents. Doesn't fly, doesn't reach, but Tasigur, he does block pretty well. Lands, we tend to have Island in because we need extra lands against shops or bug. Some people, especially Discover and swear by Library of Alexandria. It is good for the mirror or control matchups where, you just get that advantage. I do think it's great that it shines. It really shines sometimes, but other times it just comes in the wrong time, and it just, has been a waste. And I don't personally feel that it's, something we can afford to run, but if you want to go for that, it is a very solid card. Discard, most people go for Duress because our life total is very important in Doomsday. Very important. We have to be very careful about our life. But Thoughtseize does hit things that Duress does not, and especially with Endurance popping up here and there, and other problematic creatures, sometimes you just want to snag them before, to do anything. Then we have counterspells people choose from. Mindbreak Trap is pretty good because of other combo decks as well, or even... Actually, it's really good against shops because often shops will only turn one usually. Other than that, you'll be pitching it. But it can be very good against shops because they go turn one, artifact, piece, and then you just Mindbreak Trap it, and it's really solid in that situation. And it's blue with pitches. Force of Negation can also be cited. And I've actually seen anyone from 1 to 3 extra copies of Force of Negation just because it, helps us get through shops. I've seen people, not have the Steel Sabotages and instead just have Force of Negation just because, stop the shops, hate pieces, and then win. I think it's a respectable way to do it. The problem is that, you know, we can really run out of cards really quickly and then not be able to win. And Steel Sabotage does bounce, so it's pretty good. You know, I forgot Hurkyl's Recall. Hurkyl's Recall is a respectable thing you could put in your sideboard. Sorry about that, for artifacts. And then the last two pieces we have right here, we have Pithing Needle, which is good against Bazaar decks, and then we have Dress Down, which is good against, well, it can be good against the mirror, but also it's mostly for constructs, as many things are, because Urza Saga is all over the place. So that is basically the sideboard. Where I would side right now is I think I would be pretty standard. I'd probably go for, you know, the ley lines, the tabernacle, 2 pushes, 2 opposition agents, and the island. But I might be able to convince myself, honestly, to take out the ley lines and put in thing in the ice. Now, I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but the thought process is being that, well, against Dredge or, you know, Bazaar decks, you know, we just want to win as soon as possible. Leyline can help, but it can also be such a bad draw. Thing pitches to our forces, helps us protect combos, and also can just, you know, be a roadblock for the turn or so we need. I don't know if that's right or not, though. I don't think it is, but I think the utility of Thing in the Ice is worth testing out. So if you know, feel like running some leagues with that, give Thing in the Ice a try and see how you feel about it. But I think I might end up chickening out and just going for the standard ley line of the Void and my sideboard looking kind of like this. I do think there's going to be a lot more white decks, Hate Bearers coming up, so that is another good reason possibly for thinking this, but it's definitely why I want 2 Fatal Pushes. Actually, Mindbreak Trap is really looking good to me as well, so let me think about this a little bit again. Maybe I drop out an opposition agent and the 4 ley lines and the things. I could see myself easily running this as well. This could really be a way that I would do it this weekend, just because there's gonna be so many creature aggro decks. We'll probably even burn for, you know, crying out loud. So I think we're really I think Thing the Ice could be really powerful this weekend. It might be the time we want it, but I'm, you know, only just one guy playing it. So anyway, thanks for watching. Please let me know if you have any questions or you think anything I missed, and good luck playing Doomsday this weekend. And remember, always be casting Doomsday.